Yeah, hello. My name is Maxim Zhestkov, and I'm a digital artist, and I'm a sculptor, and I'm a lot of things what I'm doing. And sometimes it's really hard to just tell who am I because I'm always kind of in this process of finding the right word, what I'm actually doing.
Do you find it sometimes a little overwhelmed, the fact that you have to find a box to put yourself in it as an artist and how to describe what you do?
It's a really interesting one. I started really early when I was 7 years old, just playing with music production and some simplified computer graphics with the pixels. And I always thought that I need to choose one direction. It should be something particular. I should choose the sound and become a musician, or I should just go in a completely different side and take architecture as my main language. And it happened to be like I always thought that having a box would just allow me to be myself, that okay, I found it and now I'm this particular guy. But it's happened that in my case, it's definitely not the thing which works. I'm always kind of trying to find out and to switch a little bit. And now I'm not looking for these boxes. And probably this is a kind of the greatest thing which I got recently, that just forget about the boxes and just do your own way with your own patterns, which probably should be a little bit different from other people, other boxes.
And the interesting thing is, a lot of people on the creative world that started, they're looking for blueprints. They're looking up to people who done well, what they how did they accomplish those things. For you, as you mentioned before, you're kind of really trying to stay away from those boxes. But how do you manage to, figure it out where to go next, what project to develop further?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I have this analogy with the traffic. So when you drive a car, you the easiest way is to just find a car and be behind it and just follow it. And when you follow a car, you kind of take a lot of responsibilities away because this person will be there and you're just following. And I spent a lot of years trying to find this type of role models. What should I do in this particular pattern? How should I behave? But it's the same question, right? It's kind of the expansion of the previous one about boxes. I found out that you need to be extremely brave to tell that, guys, I feel a little bit different. I feel that I would like and go into games. I feel that I would love to go into digital things where everyone thinks that, wow, no, games, it's for a completely different audience. It's for different people. What are you doing? The real artists, they never work in the game world, right? Because it's completely different. So go and use the patterns which are already being produced. That's what I'm trying to do, to break these patterns. Sometimes it's quite hard, to just say, okay, that's how it works in normal life. I will go a little bit different way. So that's what I'm doing, kind of trying to break the boxes and trying to find out a little bit different routes to just go and explore into unknown.
I like the analogy of the car because we can also see something similar. If you're driving at night and you don't have anybody to follow, you only have your lights on, and
Yeah,
let's say the road, there's no light whatsoever, you only can see 20, 30 minutes ahead of you. And that's about it. So you're very much
yeah.
going a little bit on the unknown. And little by little, as you move forward, the more of the road presents itself. So it's a journey of unknown, but somehow you know the destination where you're heading.
Yes. So it's a really interesting thing. So if you would like to have a normal and comfortable life, you definitely need to find this type of car and some kind of already known paths to follow. But if you would like to kind of take a suffering as a part of your journey, you have to just go completely away from your normal route and just go and explore. It's painful. It's kind of to be completely in unknown state. But I found that being in unknown situation is pretty inspiring. It's just what brings me into the very brink of the knowledge of the whole society. I never been there, and when I'm trying to ask someone, I have nobody in the world who could give me the answer, because it's kind of the first time someone crazy enough to just go and explore this route. It's nice. It's nice to be in this unknown territory. Refreshing experience.
Yes, it's not for everybody either. You know, as an artist, a lot of times you're looking for feedback to make sure that you run the right path, as you mentioned before. You know, an industry, there's a marketing in place, you know, for galleries and auction houses and collectors and things like that. So to take a chance on yourself to pursue something that you don't know how it's gonna go, it takes courage. Have you always been like that? You always felt confident in taking those chances and confident within yourself and your talent that you'll be able to prevail.
Wow. I really like how we started. Every question brings a lot of ideas. Thank you very much, Yuri. So I'll tell you one story about when I was a kid. Maybe I was 8 years old. I I came to a shop. It's a video game shop, and I asked a guy that I would like to have a game, something wonderful, something what I would be really something what could change kind of the complete essence of the games for me. And he said, which genre do you prefer? And this concept about genres and about knowing that every game should be in a box made a really big impact. I said that I do not want to think through the genres. I do not want to think about the particular type of game. Maybe you can just tell me what should I play. And the guy said, no, boy. So you need to know that all games, they're just going through the patterns. There's a kind of strategy game or a racing game or a fighting. Which type of game do you want? And it was a really strange moment in my life, because I realized that everything around me already in some kind of shelves of understanding. So it's a racing games. They will be on these particular shelves, and it's a kind of going and knowing the particular route which you're following. And I was really surprised by this categorization. And that's what I'm trying to do probably in my life, to understand the main shelves of kind of normal categories and to go a little bit off. And this going a little bit off can bring a lot of completely unpredictable results, which I really like, because it's like going going fishing. If you already understand and know what would happen, it's kind of you lose the whole mystery. You're losing the whole kind of essence of going into the unknown, and you can take and catch something what you can't even expect. And it's definitely not a normal way. It's definitely kind of complete opposite way in the art world, in design world, because I'm trying to just do what I feel would be really lovely to explore. And I have two words. It's fun and awe. And I have two words like two lenses. And every time when something is quite fun, but I do not feel any awe in the process or in the result, I'm not interested in the process, in the project, or vice versa. It's just only awe, but no fun. No, it's not my type of things. So I founded a couple of companies. I made a lot of projects, but every time when I just made these reflections on my previous things, I realized that only fun and awe, these two things, helps me to go exactly to the right place where the interesting things happens and where unknown territory is just landed somewhere. So it's just, again, out of the normal route.
I love it. You make it so easy to understand and follow a little bit your thought process. Was that a specific place in time that you came into that realization that you needed the fun and the awe to make sure to you really pursuing projects that are fulfilling you?
Wow, it's a really interesting one. I suppose I always had this concept in my mind. It's like, which type of music do you like? It's really hard to describe using the language of logic why you like the particular type of music. It's just something what synchronized with your passion, with your soul, with your mental model. It's just your own favorite track or a couple of melodies. And that's what I had in my mind. And to be honest, I suffered a lot because we had a really interesting and weird relationships with with my teacher when I studied architecture at university, and we gave her this saving box. It's like a pig. I'm not quite sure how to name this thing. It's a kind of a small sculpture to just bring some coins or money inside. And she said she's not interested at all. So in the very beginning, she said, "Thank you very much." But then she said, "I'm not interested in just saving money. I'm interested in saving your wishes." And she said, "Guys, let's just write down your wishes and bring into this box. And then in 5 years, when you finish the university, I will break it down and I will bring back all your wishes." Wow. And it was a really interesting moment, like a kind of wake up thing that, oh my God, so I need to make a decision what would happen, which I meet in 5 years. And I sat and realized that, oh, wow, it's really interesting. That's what I really love to do. I would love to find my own canvas. I would like to find the right words, the right tools, which could be my own final kind of playground for my artistic freedom. And I wrote it down. And then in a couple of months, I realized that architecture, which I studied, is a little bit off. It's not definitely my own canvas. And I switched to graphic design. And it's a kind of the really interesting and kind of poetic analogy and a kind of illustration of my life. So I never seen the exact final moment, what happened. I do not know. Was it the moment when she broke the thing and found it and said, "Oh, Max wanted to find out his canvas, but he's not here, so probably he's somewhere finding his canvas." Or I'm not sure about the end story, but for me, end story is that I spent my whole life just thinking that these boundaries, this artistic normal world of art with the exhibitions, with kind of normal traits and steps, it's something a little bit away. I'm not quite synchronized. It's like, when a DJ trying to mix two tracks, it's a kind of, you hear it, it's a kind of the broken beat. It's not the nice and a kind of synchronized way. That's what I felt. So I studied later graphic design and I started to dive deeper into architecture, but using computer graphics. And it's opened a lot of weird, unknown territories. And probably that's where I'm still here. It's 20 years passed from this saving box experience, but I'm still trying to fine-tune this particular my own creative canvas, my own kind of digital playground. What I'm doing. Am I doing a game? So game is my final frontier where I can create the sound, architecture, everything, or I should go into virtual realities, or I need to go into installations and real world. And Yuri, probably the answer is like, as Devlin said, it's a pretty nicely that nature never take one route. It just takes all of routes and explore all the possibilities. And probably my playground and my result is everything. And at the moment, I'm working on a game. I'm making some things for Apple Vision Pro. I'm making kind of really interesting installations with the real industrial design and architecture. So it's probably kind of my canvas is something bigger than just only one thing, because it's a multi-modal approach where you combine everything: digital, physical world, sound, and everything. That's where I am at the moment, doing a lot of stuff.
Are you enjoying yourself?
Yes, and I'm going in a couple of days to make a tattoo. I already made a kind of an idea where it should happen, and it will be X10, because I just feel that X10 is something what I experience at the moment in the complete flow state. It's like acceleration of everything, of sound production, of working with my wonderful team when we think about installations. So I have a couple of teams, and it's a kind of the pure laugh where all these people around me so obsessed with what we are doing together, and I can just come to them and share my ideas. They could bring some results, we could think about it. So it's kind of the happiest moment in my life, but I'm still kind of going to grow and still going to take some more interesting things, and the kind of X10 is my kind of motto for today. Yeah.
That's lovely. You said earlier about enjoying and being on the flow and being in that state of mind. Do you have a practice that helps you to achieve that in a day to day? For example, I don't know. Some people practice meditation. Some people
Yeah.
practice exercise is a big part as well. Do
Yes.
you have a protocol that you try to follow to make sure that you're maximizing and optimizing your day?
Yes, definitely. I suppose the biggest thing is kind of have a good amount of sleep. Is the vital thing which I found through years of suffering and struggling, and probably it's about. So I'm crazy enough to work for 17 hours a day, and I feel really terrible when it's a weekend and I have nothing to do. So I spend all the time just doing something. But going to a gym and have 8 hours of sleep, and I can function in a really good thing. So, and that's how it works. It's really interesting. It's like to kind of fine tune your own things and make it 10x. It's definitely some sport and some healthy sleep, and a lot of people around who could help and who could just together with me make something. It's always nice to have a dialogue. It's always healthy to have people who could just bring a little bit different points of view and to completely ignite a kind of completely new worlds. And especially in game design, because at the moment, kind of my main focus is my game company, and we're working on a first game, and it's such a crazy pleasure to finally meet a lot of people who spent years and decades working on a huge AAA projects in the hugest companies, and now we are together making something wonderful. And it's something like a complete kind of fuel for my creative energy. I kind of wake up and think, oh my God, it's so wonderful. I would like to just spend the whole days without sleep, but I know that I need to have some sleep.
How much
Yeah,
of those
probably this is
projects?
the main.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating, and I think the interesting thing you mentioned, you have so many different projects. In How are they working out in terms of how many of them it's a matter of you pursuing the idea or you pursuing, I want to start doing gaming and pursuing the people say, hey, this is what I have, this is my idea, and or is the other way around because you have been able to capitalize on a lot of success in the work you've done it before. So people actually approaching you to collaborate.
Yeah, um, probably everything what I'm doing because I I just can't live without doing it. And this is probably my biggest motto. I'm not interested in money. I mean, in this capitalization of previously done thing. It's for me, it feels like I'm dying when I'm just stepping somewhere where I already been previously, and it feels like, okay, what next? Where's the new things which I can find? It's like to be a complete explorer of the new territories. So a couple of years ago, I realized that games and interactive technologies, it's probably the greatest canvas of modern world. And I started to dive deeper how I can build a company because it's impossible to make these things alone. It's completely impossible. You have to have a wonderful teams, loveliest people around you, and they help you to be in this sanity mode. Because you said, what is my routine? Probably my biggest routine is to talk to my team because that's where in these dialogues things happens. And a lot of times my ideas are quite wild and quite crazy, but I have some people who would tell me, no, it's too much, it's too crazy, let's just try a little bit different approach. So and especially using and thinking through the game production, I just realized that I need to go there because I know nothing about it. It's completely unknown territory, and that's where the most interesting things happens. That's where I should go. And I never tried to make some coding things. I never tried to make some game design methodology. I never knew what is software architecture is, but I'm crazy enough to tell that that's what is really interesting thing for me. That's where I'm going to go and explore and just dive as deep as possible. And it works because it's a kind of this level of insanity helps me, but I completely understand that for some people who are quite close to me, it feels weird. It feels like I'm always trying to shake the status quo. I'm always trying to kind of to ruin something what could work. But I really like, the kind of to go to the extreme and explore something to kind of reinvent and re-understand kind of what actually the reality is. And it's wonderful because the things which I found doing game now helps me to structurize and work better on my installations. And the things which I found out working on installations helps a lot working with the virtual reality projects. It's like a wonderful kind of vortex of completely different things which kind of overlap and add additional superpowers to other parts. That's how it works.
Do you worry that as digital experiences, gaming, VR, everything else going on, become more immersive, people might disconnect from the real world?
Oh, you touched the nerve. My film, the game which, my God, you just found it. 4 years ago, okay, 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I became obsessed with the concept of great filter. The great filter is the concept which trying to tell us why we are alone in the universe. It's a kind of Fermi paradox. The whole universe, it's a complete void. There is no consciousness. There is a kind of the complete nothing. And one of the really interesting concepts, it's the great filter. So probably there is something what stops every civilization from just going out. And I became obsessed with this idea. And what I found that the things which I'm doing, actually, it's a kind of virtual world. And if I'm doing virtual architecture and virtual experiences. So I'm a part of this great filter. I'm a part of these future impossibilities for the people to go outside, because I'm a part of this building these fantasy worlds. And I started to play with the concept, with the visual things, with the kind of loose script, concept art for my big project, The Great Filter. And I found that it's so deep in me that after 3 years of development, I decided that I need to make a game. And it's such a meta irony. I will make a game about the problem that all games are the final frontier, which just stops people from just going outside. It's just sucking you inside, just to be completely immersed in these virtual experiences. And that's what we are doing at the moment. That's where my main focus. We are working on my first game. The game, it's The Great Filter. It's a really big story which we are developing, and it's a lot of power. It's like every day for 12 even more hours. I just work on the project for last years. I'm still kind of making it in kind of secret mode. I will share a lot really soon. So it's a kind of probably first time I'm telling it publicly.
Oh, thanks for sharing. It's an interesting idea in terms of you saying that you get obsessed over a concept that you really want to explore it in a way that be able to share that with people. And game is definitely a way that people can interact and have an emotional connection with that world in a way that felt very real. Um,
Yeah.
Now, we do live in a world that's almost impossible not to talk about AI, with what's going on. And there has been a lot of conversation about digital rights and ownership when it comes to that. You not only being involved on that all aspect with creativity, but also technology. That's something that you're worried about. And how do you handle copyrights issues in terms of your work? It kind of seems to be a little bit of a tricky area.
It's a tricky one. I have two answers. So the one answer is I'm not worrying a lot. I'm not worrying at all, because the hardest things in my life at the moment it's a game design and game production. And it's so hard that I can't even imagine which kind of AI could help me with something, with anything, with the production of the game, because it's about people. It's about 20 people at the moment in my company. So it's a kind of, I will tell about the company quite soon. I will make a big reveal. And it's so important that people who makes the things, they're more important than the content which they're producing, because it's about kind of making a super machine, and then when it's done you can go anywhere. It's not just only one stop thing. I'm not just making a team or one game. I'm making a company to make a lot of games, a lot. And going back to your question about AI, I suppose we all have this superpower and super problem that everything what we see somehow became a part of our selves, right? We kind of take information. You will take something from our conversation and use it later, because it's like a kind of mind virus. I just told something what later became a part of your own mind, and you can share a little bit different point of view with a piece of my concept and a piece of your concept. And I'm really happy that so these kind of copyright problems happen to be the biggest superpower of humanity. We always going into museums, we always looking into new works and take something, maybe even without thinking about it, and create our own things. We're making interpretations. And I suppose making interpretations is a really good and healthy thing. It's like you have something what push you even further, push you further to people, push you further to some more wild ideas. So I never thought that something I'm really afraid of and it's kind of copyright problem for me. No, it's a really good thing which gives me a little even more nudge, go even deeper, explore even crazier ideas, create even more kind of new and weird things. And I'm really happy. It's quite scary, maybe a little bit, but this sense of just awareness gives me some kind of new power to just push the limits. Probably this kind of my weird answer. It's not kind of strict, it's a little bit abstract.
Yeah, no, people sometimes, I have heard it before, that there is no more creative thoughts or creative ideas. Everything's borrowed. You just really, spinning, doing your own thing, as you mentioned before, or something that already
Yeah.
existed or already has been showcased. But I want to ask you a question, and it's a little bit in deeper side in terms of the source of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
How would you define it? And do you think creativity is a gift? People you're born with? Is a skill? And if it is both, how do you assess it, and how do you, transform it in a way that it can be palpable and visible?
It's a really interesting one, and I suppose all these both questions, they are so interesting because you previously asked about AI and about this concept of kind of stealing ideas, and then you asked about creativity. So I suppose creativity is stealing ideas somehow, somewhere, and it's a Kevin Kelly and his wonderful book Inevitable. It's a really great book about, maybe I'm wrong, but it's probably about 11 things which will change our life in the future. So Kevin he's a founder of Wired magazine and a kind of techno-futurist and journalist, and I really liked all his books. And he said a really lovely thing, that everything is a remix. So he envisioned the future where you can't produce anything new because everything already been produced. So we need to find out how to be creative when everything already been produced. We need to take some Lego blocks to rearrange these Lego blocks in our own way and tell that this is our own vision, this is our own lens. We took these small things from probably already existing projects, things, artworks, and then we brought it into our own storytelling. So probably the previous question and this one, they are somehow connected because our brain works almost in the same way. How it works for me, how my biggest creative muscle works. I suppose it works in a really lot of mistakes. So I take an idea, maybe even quite loose, a weird idea, and I try to push it to the very crazy limits, to the craziest limits possible. And when you push it to the craziest limits, you start seeing it from a little bit different perspective. And then you start think about this particular point and push this point to the different limit. So it's like always making an action, then reflect on your action and act upon this reflection. And it's a really interesting thing because I suppose okay, let's make some kind of art world analogy. If we take Salvador Dali or some other surrealists, everything started in writing, in automatic writing, when you just write some complete nonsensical thing. But when you write these nonsensical words, you can later understand some patterns and some form of loose storytelling, which you later can start dreaming about and continue your process of kind of half dreaming. It's a kind of like a daydreaming process. You dream, then you dream upon your dream, and it's like a two mirrors, and your dream is just going into kind of the universe, endless. And I suppose the greatest thing here is to be brave enough and crazy enough to take anything and start making this anything as big as possible, as crazy as possible, as yours as possible. And when you made it, try to just rotate it a little bit in your mind and just bring a little bit of more weird things and try it out. And usually it works really great when you are not alone. It's number one. And even when you're not alone with your kind of sketchbook. Because for me, it works really, really magically when you just sit and start to bring and dive into some ideas. Sometimes this idea, they're so weird, and you can just try a couple of really simplistic things. But then you think, oh, wow. So what is the word I just made? No, I wanted completely different one. But this particular one looks quite interesting with the previous one from the previous sentence. And you start making connections. So probably creativity is about making connections and about creating your own vocabulary, your own words. So I already told you about kind of fun and awe and all these frameworks, which I always use. Feels like I made my own Lego blocks, and now I'm kind of happy enough to play with my Lego blocks in completely different rearrangements. And it's probably who am I in this artistic world. I like this experimental type of sound production. I love virtual worlds. I like game production. And it's a kind of small bricks of me, which I later can rearrange in any construction possible.
No, it makes complete sense. I have before described a lot of times the possibility of the language, as you mentioned before. The more skills and tools that you have, is a vocabulary that you add to your language, so that way you can form better phrases, better sentences, and be able to break it down to make sense, or even change it completely in a way that can become a poem instead of an essay. But this all comes down to being able to put all together.
Yes, completely. It's now well synchronized.
Yeah. I asked a couple questions to everybody, but I'm curious to hear your point of view on this. For you, you mentioned before, what are you interested in? It's not about monetization. It's about none of those things that a lot of artists are looking for. But what is the best compliment you ever got?
Oh, wow. It's a good one. Best compliment. Okay, I know the compliment. It was a scream. It was a not verbal thing, not language. It was just a scream. We started to work on a game project. It was 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, and it was an early morning in my studio, and I had a joystick and a prototype of a really, really early version. It was so bad, so kind of first iterations. And I just played it and explored how it works. And the first guy who came really early morning to the studio, he asked, "Oh, Max, what are you doing?" I said, "Yeah, we're just playing. I'm playing with the game," because he was from my motion design studio, not from game development studio. And he said, "Can I try it out?" I gave him a joystick. And it was something like at 8 a.m., really, really early. And he started to play. It was almost no graphics. It was white boxes and just a simplistic mechanic. But when the mechanic happened, and when the laser kind of killed the character or something, he started to scream because he achieved something what he really wanted to do. He opened the door, or probably he opened the door and the laser not kind of hit him. He screamed, and I was, it happened. This is the biggest compliment, because it's not verbally. It's not that, yes, I really like your work. I would like to write a paragraph in a magazine. No, it's a kind of logical thinking. But I like this kind of completely illogical thinking. And that's why probably I'm diving into game design, because in games you can take a person so deeply that a person could spend the whole night, a couple of days in your own world, screaming, laughing, crying, or doing some experiences which probably impossible to bring if you make a sculpture or if you make an installation. So for me, it's like going as deep as possible to take the nerves which I can use to tell my own emotional stories. And that's what I'm doing. And it's definitely the greatest compliment which I ever heard. It's just a scream.
What a device! What advice would you give to a young artist looking to break into the world of digital art and motion design?
Wow, sketchbook. Only paper, because it feels like we're so overwhelmed with the technologies, with some kind of a lot of tutorials, and it's kind of 10 years ago it was okay, 15 years ago almost no tutorials, and to find some information you just had to go and find a book or something. But nowadays it's a completely different story. You completely bombarded, and it's a kind of like a paralyzing experience. Wow, it's everything here. And for me, okay, it will be two things. It will be sketchbook, and it will be something like Pomodoro technique for diving as deep as possible. It's a kind of deep work methodology to spend 2 hours with only your sketchbook, writing down what you would like to deliver, which emotions you would like to take, to bring, which connections you would like to explore, which topic actually you're talking about. And it's probably the most important thing, because AI can definitely take all the tools of kind of computer graphics and digital world building. But having ourselves as a nucleus for bringing ideas is probably the most important thing nowadays. To just sit, to find a way to spend 2 hours writing down your thoughts, writing down your ideas. And sometimes it's the hardest thing. I know maybe 20 to 30 different computer programs. I started from 3D Studio Max, then I started to use Maya, then I switched to Cinema 4D, then to Houdini. I worked in Nuke. I made a lot of things in my life. But always, if I can, kind of bring something to my younger self, it would be definitely the concept which I learned doing games. You have to write down design document before you just start doing about game. It should be one pager. It's a really lovely concept, one pager, where everything is connected. What is your story about? What is you doing? What is your end goal? Why are you doing it? It's like adding some rational thinking into completely emotional process of making art. So for me, it was always kind of complete emotional side of spectrum. I'm just complete explosion. I'm a complete kind of, just 100% emotion, but bringing this logic and bringing this slow thinking would help a lot. Thinking fast and slow.
Before I let
So
you
it's
go,
not a, yeah.
yeah, so before I let you go, I know time is coming close to an end. I want to ask you 3 questions and ask to everybody. I want you to recommend 3 things. I want you to recommend us a book, something to read. I would like you to recommend us something to watch. It can be a movie, a documentary, a TV show, or even perhaps a game. And I would like you to recommend us a guest. Who should we have next on the show?
Okay, I will try. So, book. Okay, so I'm one of these things which you asked me in the very beginning about my diet, how to be creative. Probably books is my biggest hobby, and I spent every day 3 to 4 hours reading books and mostly listening to Audible. And I can tell you, probably I'm 100% sure that something what I'm listening at the moment is a really, really important. Okay, it's a 2 books. Yeah, 2 books. The one is a Black Holes by Brian Cox, and the second one is oh my god, it's a lot of books, but yeah, I will take this one. Beyond Entrepreneurship. It's by Jim Collins, and it's a really, really lovely one about how to build great companies. But I found a lot of things for my art practice because it's so lovely to understand how to work with people around you, how to treat your team, how to make people happy, to make this magic with your old projects. So probably 2 books. And about a watch or a game, what to watch or what to play. Wow, it's a really interesting one. Okay, okay, yes, definitely. Play Journey. Journey is something what probably made a really big big experience for me. I remember the exact day when I tried it and the exact day when I realized that I need to go into game development. So Journey by Thatgamecompany, it's really good. And about Gas, wow, I was really obsessed by Chris Cunningham. I spent my whole kind of early creative years just watching some kind of his music videos, and I really like how he went out of all radars and he's somewhere, and it's a pretty interesting kind of mystical figure. So if you somehow find how to speak to him, I would be really happy to listen, because it's a kind of part of mystery, right? Kind of someone in this new world where everything is completely open and everyone making his blogs or podcasts, he just decided to go completely away. And it's a really, really lovely thing. So it's probably Chris Cunningham, and the second one is James Turrell. These 2 people. Yeah.
These are great choices. We gotta get work on those.
Thank you, Yuri.
Max, thank you so much for taking the time. I think I say this often, that I'm privileged to have the chance to talk to a lot of people, and I spent an hour here with you getting to learn a little bit more about your process, your mind, and I have a feeling that we could spend many, many more hours in certain subjects, and perhaps we'll have the chance to do this in person in the future, hopefully so.
Hopefully.
Cannot wait to hear more about the new project. I know you're working in a few great things, in big things, and we're going to be here watching and listening, cheering for you, wishing for the best. Before you go, let everybody know how they can follow you, they can find out more about your projects, what you're working on. If you don't mind, put a plug in. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so kind of I'm posting kind of updates on my Instagram. So at Zhestkov, and it will be a lot of new studios, a couple of new studios soon, where I will share a lot of more things. But kind of follow my main Instagram account, where I will tell some things about updates. Thank you very much, Yuri.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
All right, we're done.
Awesome.